I'm trying to talk now.
You're trying and you're doing it. Good job.
Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week.
The chattiest chat you could chat about when it comes to chit chat.
August 9th, I'm Ryan Miller, and the triple threat himself, Matt Amberg. Oh, now you're quiet.
I'm quiet.
No, you're never quiet. Hey.
Talk. Too much talk.
Oh, boy. That would have been the line from the movie to introduce, yes. But no, we went with, again, the title. I'm sticking with my new tradition. And as the triple threat himself, what are your triple threats? I'm curious now how you got that nickname.
Oh, sure. I'm ugly, I'm smelly, and I'm stupid. Right there. Triple threat.
Okay.
It's like that whole Molly Russell's wart. Oh, buck melanoma!
On Book Club for Movies, where we watch one movie a week, and we hope you do the same so that you can, too, join the discussion, too, also at podcast at bookclubformovies.com or Facebook and Twitter. This week, we are doing Triple Threat, the movie, although why I specified...
Well, if you don't specify the movie, I automatically go to Full House, because the triple threat being Stamos, Bob Saget, and Uncle Joey.
Although there's no shortage of, in looking up YouTube videos, things that use the triple threat moniker. So I guess, yes, I probably should specify. Matt, maybe if you did a synopsis, it would help.
I highly agree. Triple Threat, now we're at 36 minutes, written by Joey O'Brien, Fanglin Song, and Paul Stahelli, directed by Jesse V. Johnson, very different person than Jesse A through X. Y might be in there. I don't know, letters.
Y indeed.
Starring Tony Jaa, Tiger Hugh Chen, Iko Uwais, Scott Adkins, Selena Jade, Michael Jai White, Michael Bisping. Here is your Book Club for Movie synopsis for Triple Threat. When a group of assassins are hired by a mysterious benefactor to murder a billionaire's daughter, an unlikely team of mercenaries must come together to save her.
Beautiful.
And that unlikely team of mercenaries is Tony Jaa, Tiger Hugh Chen, and Iko Uwais.
So you figured out the triple threat pretty early on. It's okay.
Okay, here's the thing.
We'll get there,
The movie starts...
Wait, I got history. Do you want the...
We'll get there. The movie you got to start to get to the history. The movie immediately starts with Tony Jaa, Tiger Hugh Chen, Michael Jai White, Michael Bisping, like three other people going to this small village. And I'm like watching this immediately and I'm like, okay, that's like a quadruple threat right now. And then they're like, okay, we're saving Scott Adkins. And I'm like, oh, he's got to be the bad guy, right? And then now I'm like, there's like a quintuplet threat.
That's another threat. Yeah.
And Iko's there and Iko's like not with them. And he's the guy that's like just guarding the thing. And I'm like, okay, so Iko has to go against like a quadrungle threat.
Yeah, it's like a splinter threat. That's another good name for a movie, actually.
Splinter threat. I like it.
Splinter threat.
I would personally call the next Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles
that
movie.
Was it.
Yeah.
Oh, dang it. You beat me to it.
Then you find out, like not too long after, that the triple threat will end up being, in fact, Tony Jaa, Tiger Hugh Chen, and Iko Uwais. And boy, oh boy.
Spoiler alert.
It is all the things that you want it to be.
Okay. So, cast your mind back way before all of that. And
wait. Who's playing me?
Still you, actually.
Oh, I don't want to. Yeah. If I'm only making scale on this, I'm out.
Well, speaking of only making scale, our story begins with a young man who probably wasn't making anywhere near scale. Jesse V. Johnson as a PA on Mortal Kombat. Yes, the 1995 movie. So he makes a name for himself in the stunt world after that, and I feel like it's a pretty short road from PA to stuntman. You know, PA's sure probably being pretty thirsty, but also the rest of the crew probably looking at the PAs and being like, hey, is it okay if we hit you for a little bit?
Hey, you see that building right there? You want to get thrown off it?
Yeah. Are you doing anything? You got that coffee, right? Actually, on Mortal Kombat, that probably wasn't it. Although Robin Show got hurt, so it's not like it wasn't without its dangers, but...
Well, and they were constantly fighting a true Goro.
The biggest prima donna on set ever.
The animatronic.
So, yes, he makes that leap to stuntman from PA and spends most, I guess at this point, probably not even most of his career, but a lot of his career doing stunts as mostly a player, as a stunt man. And in fact, you mentioned Amazing Spider-Man 2, I think, but that might be the least of his credits.
It was just the first thing that I saw. Honestly, I looked him up and I was like, oh, he was a stuntman. Got it. Now I understand.
That might be the least of anyone's credits, honestly.
And this is not to take anything away from him whatsoever about the movie. I'm not even criticizing it. This is just kind of one of those things, though. When I watch a movie, if I look up the director and the first thing I see is that they are primarily known as a stunt person, I have an idea of what I'm getting myself into in terms of, I know that the action parts are probably going to be very well taken care of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
no. I mean, shades of Hal Needham, right? Like, I don't know how many times I thought about him during a very different situation, but
yeah,
Hal Needham being kind of the Smokey and the Bandit genre guy. And if you make a movie with him after that, you also know what you're going to get. So I guess in the way that you got a very Smokey and the Bandit movie from a very Smokey and the Bandit guy, in this case, you get a very action competent movie from a very action competent guy. Whatever. So stop looking at me like that. Yes. He goes Mission Impossible 3, Terminator 3, Master of Disguise, Planet of the Apes, Charlie's Angels.
I'm really glad you sprinkled that one in there. That was your zest right there.
But going all the way back to Total Recall, actually, he was a stuntman. So
right.
Eventually works up to stunt coordinator. I think somewhere mentions Beowulf, but I want to say he coordinated actually before that. But in any event, he's making his way up the ranks.
Sure.
And he directs a movie called Pit Fighter in 2005 is the first movie I can find him and Scott Adkins matching up, which is actually pretty early in Adkins' career, who started, I think we've talked about him probably enough, but him being a huge fan of 80s action movies, but also Kung Fu for as long as anybody can think of. Actually starts his career in Hong Kong in 2001. So this is just 4 years after that even. And he's making this movie, Pit Fighter, which he's not starring. He's not I don't know where he's at on the call sheet there, but
number 5.
Yeah. Well, there might be 5 people in the entire movie, both for all I know, because I haven't seen it, but also because these are what he follows up with when him and Scott Adkins really get together between 2017 and 2020. He makes Savage Dog, Accident Man, The Debt Collector, Triple Threat, Avengement, Debt Collectors, all with Adkins at the center. And let me tell you, sir, this is the VHS shelf you've been looking for.
I am so behind it. I mean, look, the reality here is I mentioned it to you, and I will always mention it to you until I watch it, but Avengement might be the best title of a film I have ever heard.
But it basically, as far back as I can tell, Jesse V. Johnson, or Jesse Johnson, wherever he's credited,
JJ,
appears to very much know and revere this VHS shelf that we've been talking about, that Adkins has been talking about forever. You know, that shelf where we go and just pick something up because of the cover, maybe even sometimes. In fact,
you look at the cover and there's violence and you go, that's the one today.
Yes, and looking at his history, I would be remiss, I feel like, if I didn't mention this one, which I'm also curious if you've seen. Have you heard of Alien Agent?
I am disappointed in myself.
Okay. It's an earlier one that he directed in 2007, but it's literally that. It's a lawman from another galaxy, played by Mark Dacascos.
Perfect.
Must stop an invading force from building a gateway to planet Earth.
Obviously.
Opposite Billy Zane.
Well, there we have it. And now this movie has become a must-see. Yeah,
so I've watched the trailer. It just absolutely looks like everything I've just talked about. So it's very obvious that they have a reverence for this. They know what they're doing. They have a reverence for it. It's not that they're in for a cash grab or just any of that.
Sure.
But then, as the story goes, Tiger Chen actually is the one with the idea to get all of these stars together, really, these action movie stars that you mentioned, And I guess he has a couple scripts possibly that can be this idea, but he doesn't meet eye to eye with, I guess, Chad Stahelski. He tries to get him, and I guess they couldn't possibly agree on a script or something like that. So ArcLight, one of the production companies, which there's like 10, taps Jesse Johnson for this. And he says that basically he hopped on a plane the day after wrapping Accident Man and went to, I think Thailand is where they shot most of this movie.
Certainly appears that way, yeah.
But in doing so, because he knew it was going to be this kind of ensemble thing, he watches movies like Dirty Dozen, Seven Samurai, Magnificent Seven, to kind of get an idea for coverage or ideas for coverage, just ways that he can use the entirety of these amazing actors that you already want to pull back for in the first place, you know?
Yeah.
So he does that. They do end up getting them all together. He says by the time he got to set, the script wasn't necessarily finished, and I don't even know if everybody had even signed on. It was still kind of coming together, and eventually it did. But they only had all of these 9 actors for a week to do those shots.
That's pretty nuts, man. For what we got, that's crazy.
Yeah, and that's not the entire movie. That's just for all the shots where they needed everybody on set. They only had a week.
Yeah.
So they did that all out of order, which most movies are done like that. So that's not necessarily new, but I think regardless, it's a very short schedule.
Yeah.
Especially with all that talent involved to get some of those shots. So I think that's where we can start the movie. Some of that will come back, but for now, overall, what'd you think of the thing?
Yeah, I was actually super surprised by this. I don't know what all I was expecting in terms of, I guess I did go into it thinking, okay, let's see how nationalist this one's going to be. And I was pleasantly surprised that it's not overtly pro-China or anything.
Check out the Wolf Warrior 2 show last week.
Yeah.
It's
neither Warrior of Wolves. This is definitely more of a even keel, I guess, but still definitely has the undertone of, the white devil, which is fine. It's funny. It's great. It's funny that you mentioned how Tiger put all this together, because one of the things that I mentioned to you when I was watching it, I texted you, and it was just something that I kept coming back to, is this movie is such a fun, indicative movie of what certain things from the 80s were. And some of those things that we all wanted to see, that the Expendables ultimately kind of became, where it was Stallone got everybody together and we got these movies with like all those guys, and that was the Expendables, and we loved it, and it was fun, it's stupid, it's whatever you want it to be. In so many ways, that's what this kind of is, but like with all of the guys who never got the chance to be in, it's 2 decades late, right? Where it's like in the 80s, these guys would all be massive action stars, right? Like they would be, we would see them because you're right. It's the video store thing. You'd walk in, you'd see this cover, you'd see these guys and go, I gotta check this flick out.
Right.
And yeah, dude, it's like it's got some fun gore to it, and there is some gore, and there is one moment that I fell off my freaking couch laughing at.
When Mook gets hers.
The entire prospect of Mook drawing on him right then is just like I knew it was coming. I'm like, this is gonna be gross.
I hope we explain that more later, but
nope.
We're gonna spoil the movie.
We're leaving it at that. It's pretty gross.
Okay, so it sounds like overall you enjoyed the thing. You're into it.
For an hour and 36 minutes, man, I totally was. This is a quick movie. It like there's no real lulls to it. You got a couple of breaks here and there, but overall the movie moves at a pretty good clip. The story is, I mean, it's an action movie story. There's nothing special here. It is the billionaire's daughter has decided, I'm going to donate all my money to the cause of trying to stop a crime syndicate. The crime syndicate is like, uh-oh, And this other woman is like, yeah, all right, let's kill her because we like the crime syndicate. I'm into it. I am the crime syndicate. Let's kill her. So they try to kill her. And then the other guys are like, yeah, you killed all of my friends and people in the village at the beginning of the movie. And then the two other guys are like, and you betrayed us at the beginning of the movie. So now we're mad.
Two synopses in one movie, in one show. It's a double threat.
It's a
double threat.
A third threat may be coming.
Oh, so I am glad you mentioned The Expendables because Jesse Johnson himself also mentioned that, which I should mention that my wife really likes the Olympics. So I watched this movie way early in the week and also a bunch of videos about the movie just because I had no other choice.
Because it was either this or the Olympics.
Yeah, well, she's watching Olympics and I just don't get into that much, so I'm just watching endless whatever.
I like sports, don't care about the Olympics.
Anyway. So I watched this interview with Jesse Johnson and he mentions how oftentimes you will hear a lot of people comparing this movie to The Expendables because it does feature so many action stars and stuff like that. And he's like, but The Expendables very much is, I mean, it's a callback, it's nostalgia, it's all this, but it's to a very specific time in 80s, maybe early 90s action cinema where you cut around the actors, largely speaking. And it's been a while since I've seen The Expendables, so I don't know how they handle some of the I almost said some of the actually talented people in that movie, but
yeah, I mean, Dolph Lundgren's not in the movie a bunch. So what can you do?
I know it features a range of actors that aren't necessarily martial arts trained and some that are. In fact, doesn't Tony Jaa show up in The Expendables at some point? I want to say.
It's been so long since I've seen them, and I never saw the last one, I don't think. But all I remember...
Is there 4 of them?
I have no idea. All I remember is that, I mean, there's not even a ton of... I don't remember there being a ton of hand-to-hand combat in these either. I mean, you always knew you were going to get some stuff with Stallone because you always did. But those were not the guys, like... Even with Schwarzenegger,
exactly.
Like you didn't watch Schwarzenegger to watch. I mean, you watched him. You wanted to watch him punch people, but a lot of it was the quippy stuff, and it was how he looked with the guns and whatnot, and what he could do. Whereas, I'm sorry that I'm interrupting you here, but I
didn't know you were.
Like, it's a dotted line to The Expendables. It can be compared in the sense that it has that same. Like the same amount of people, like, you know what I mean? Like
it's just an ensemble cast of a bunch of action movie stars that are awesome. Like that's kind of where it ends, really.
Right.
Especially when it comes to the action, because they are not comparable. The action between this movie and the Expendables movie is just not.
But the Expendables are a brutish Western style action movie. This is like, whereas there is more charisma, there's more fluidity. It's more of a personable thing with this triple threat with the kind of martial arts that are being done here.
Yeah, it tends towards the Hong Kong style. I know I've mentioned that probably to death during these, but if I had to put Hong Kong and American on both ends of a spectrum, this tends more towards the Hong Kong side of things, where we are showcasing the talented people at hand here. We're not cutting in the middle.
Yeah.
It's a little bit of what we talked about for, was it the last movie? Yeah, Wolf Warrior, where it did tend more towards the American side of things, where they're cutting quickly. There's only maybe 5 moves to a choreography or shot or however that goes. So
right.
Much, much, much more accomplished. It's not even a comparison really here with this movie. And I would probably put that at the top of things that I liked about Triple Threat. Is both the direction of the action and the execution, obviously, between all of these incredibly talented martial artists.
Which I think one of my favorite parts here is that, and I wrote this down immediately because I was looking at who, as people are coming on screen, because again, right away, you're introduced to Tony Jaa, Tiger Hu-Chen, Michael Jai White, and Michael Bisping. And then there's like 1 or 2 other guys, but those were the ones that I recognized them immediately. I went, oh, and one of my first things that I wrote down was, this is going to be a cornucopia of fighting styles because it is. It's like it's such a cool movie to see Bisping with his MMA background, Michael Jai White with his, he's got the specific brand of his martial
I think
art.
he's also mostly MMA, but yeah, he's definitely pretty accomplished.
No, he's a martial artist, like first and foremost. He wasn't MMA. He was
Yes, sorry. Well, because he came out before MMA was even really a thing or got big, whatever. Yeah, but yeah.
Right.
I feel like because of his UFC, I call them UFC movies, but like Undisputed and all that, I feel like is where he's really developed a following, which is very MMA.
But like, anyways. but Tony Jaa, Tiger Hu Chen, Iko Uwais are three completely separate styles of martial arts.
Tony Jaa's Muay Thai, Iko's Pencak Silat, we talked about, obviously, and Tiger Chen is Kung Fu, for lack of a better word. It seems pretty Tai Chi-ish, I don't know if that's just because of Man of Tai Chi, but it's Kung Fu at the very least, if we want to say. So yes.
Yeah. And then I mean, on top of that, you've got Adkins style, again, the yes. Michael Jai White and Michael Bisping, along with some of the other people that are fighting in here. And it is just a delight to watch the various styles go back and forth with each other. It's so much fun.
Well, it's a delight to watch because they're very much aware of that, and they play them off each other very specifically. And I feel like we're getting to pretty deep in the film now, but since we are talking about, again, this my favorite part of the film, I'll get into it. Towards the end, the third act, which I will also say is the best part of the movie.
Yeah, this is another movie. Again, I'm so sorry I'm interrupting you left and right here.
No, stop.
This is definitely another one of those movies where once you hit the third act, it's balls to the wall. It doesn't stop. It's constant fights, constant action, and
it definitely ramps up. Yeah, they've saved the best for last in a way.
And boy, is it good.
It is, and because they are playing those styles off of each other, there is a moment in that final act, I've got to look this up because it is fairly intricate, actually. I mean, it's just a parallel cut, and it's actually not perfect too. I have a gripe, but there is a moment where they've, of course, all ended up in this kind of dilapidated building, which is just perfect. Like if they found this just walking around, I can't imagine. Like if they built this, like still kind of amazing, but it's a perfect environment for this final set piece. And we've got Iko versus Michael Jai White. They finally come to a head, and
that's so cool.
It's awesome because, like, Michael Jai White, I will say he seems like a total stand-up fun guy, just down to earth, whatever. I watched another interview with him about this movie, but compared to all these tiny dudes, he seems slow, and I don't think he is. But compared to them, I was wondering how they would do this. I'm like, man, how are they going to even make Michael Jai White look like he can stand up to an Iko? And they totally do it. Like they totally nail it.
It's great.
His style is it's a lot of brute force. And it's funny, in that interview, he mentioned how one of the things they had to consider was how he is so much taller than Iko. So he's like, I'm not doing any jump kicks because that would be ridiculous. I would just especially when Silat is has such a low stance that would doubly make this. So he was talking. He's like, basically, it's more like whack-a-mole. He's like, I'm doing my stuff, but they make it look good and they make it look believable. And that fight is a ton of fun because they use that difference as a strength in the way they play off each other with that choreography.
And one of the things that makes it so good too is that one of the things, and this is true for all the fights, I think, is that the movie does a great job giving the fighting weight. So like when they fight, there are a number of sequences where it looks like that would freaking hurt. And then there's a certain level where you watch it and it's like when you're playing a video game. And if you've ever played a video game that has shooting in it, you kind of know the difference between when a gun feels good in a game and when it just doesn't. It just feels flat. It feels nothing. You got another game like Doom where it feels chunky and good and heavy. And you want that with your movies too. Like when action movies like this, like I want my fight scenes to feel kinetic and forceful. And I loved it because it felt like either of them could win this fight. There was, you're rooting for Iko here. You want to see Iko win, but there's definitely a point where you're like, okay, if I'm looking at this from a more objective standpoint, other than I know how this movie is going to end, it's got to, right? There's a real situation here where Michael Jai White might hit him so friggin' hard he breaks his face off, and it's great. Well,
and there is a rhythm to it, both with the choreography, but also to who gets knocked down, and you think it's over, but it's not, and all that. But why I think this is also in the third act so doubly interesting is because it's intercut with Tiger Chen's fight with Michael Bisping.
Yeah. Michael Bisping.
Sorry, yes.
Bisping.
Because he's a Cloud City of a man. And I'm not afraid to admit it.
He's built exactly like the Cloud City.
And Tiger Chen's full on kung fuing. So the styles are really placed right up against each other. If it doesn't emphasize or just highlight those differences even more, especially when Tiger Chen is basically holding back. He's open fist for half of that fight until he's like, I don't want to do this. Like, is there another way? And Bisping's like, no. And then the fists closed, and then they're into the second half of that fight. So good. And why I'm disappointed then is because during all that, it's intercut with Tony Jaa just running around with Adkins with a gun. And I'm like, man, for the movie Triple Threat, like this, especially final set piece, final fight, in a lot of ways, centerpiece fight, could have been so cool if we really were cutting between all three of those styles, because eventually Tony Jaa and Scott Adkins do stop running and start engaging with fisticuffs. And it's also very great. I think it's also more of the final fight of the film. That's kind of where they really come to a head. So I think it is probably why they didn't intercut it with the other two, but it felt like a little bit of a missed opportunity.
I couldn't agree more. I feel like that was a thing where they were like, they felt like they had to give somebody their kind of crowning achievement, their glory in the movie. This is the real fight that we're building to. But I think that it would have been a much better way to go through the film with those being intercut. Yeah, for that exact reason. I mean, the movie's called Triple Threat, so prove it.
Yeah, I think they sacrificed basically what that could have been for kind of a larger idea of the finale of the film.
Which I mean, fine, it's whatever.
I still didn't hate what they actually ended up doing, obviously, but
it's good. It's a good fight. Yeah. It's a great fight scene. I mean, to like Tony Jaa, come on. What do you think?
Yeah, no, the Tony Jaa, let's keep going. The Tony Jaa Adkins fight is also fantastic. Like Tony Jaa, top form, but also Adkins, who I don't necessarily have his style nailed down, and it's probably because he is so well versed in a lot of different styles. I see most often he's pegged as Taekwondo when he comes up sometimes, and I'm like, he obviously studied with that, but he also really likes and might be on the border of the generation that really likes tricks, or he likes to call trickers, which are a lot of times there's these videos on YouTube where it is all these guys in a gym doing martial arts, but they're very also trying to do a trick or a flip in a certain type of way. It almost looks like parkour, right?
Parkour in
a way.
Parkour. Yeah. I've seen it in The Office. They do it.
Oh, that's right. There was an episode.
Google The Office and parkour.
Also a fantastic action movie all at a time. Mm-hmm. But so Atkins will bring in a lot of what looks like tricking to, I feel like, some of his. And you get some really great bits in here where he does it looks like a double or something flip that ends with a kick. He's got he's very technical too. Like he's got a kick at the end of a kick sometimes. It's very entertaining, obviously. But yes, that fight with him and Tony Jaa is probably worth the sacrifice, obviously, of that triple threat moment we could have had earlier on.
Also, just because we did tease it a little bit earlier in the film, so just before all of this stuff, basically there are two sections where our mercenary trio is being tailed by the assassins, and it's kind of broken up between where some of the assassins die and then they regroup and then they come back and we get the final sequence. And in that first little bit, one of them, the female assassin Mook, she ends up getting beaten down by, I think it's Eco that kills her, but I can't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah, it's Eco.
But they fight. She's down. He's pointing a grenade launcher directly at her that is fully loaded. She is looking at him and he's just saying, don't do it. And she, of course, reaches for her gun.
She does it.
He pulls the trigger, and I thought, in my head, in the split second, I'm like, oh, this could go like 5 different ways. And
sure enough, she does.
And she, not only did they detonate her in a gory, bloody fashion, that you get like a split second of seeing just the chunk of her body that's left over. And boy, is it great.
It's such a just a poof. Like
it was so weird.
I don't think it's like a huge explosion. I'd have to rewatch it, and I won't. But
it was like somebody like popped a balloon on Double Dare. You know,
it really is. Which I like when the effect is a little more funny than realistic. So I was happy with that.
I'm good either way. Whatever. It was fun.
Those are the clips you'll be looking for when it comes to this movie. But honestly, see the entire thing.
Yeah, it's a fun flick, man. It's worth a watch. The story does flow, and the fights pay off, man. Like you want to, by the end of the movie, when you get to all of those great fights, you want to see them occur, and you want to see them happen that way. I mean, yeah, they're satisfying to watch, probably out of context, but watching them in context, more satisfying, I think.
Even better. Yeah, I totally agree. And since you mentioned the story, let's keep rolling. I tell you what I really liked about the story was this intriguing setup where basically Iko is seeking revenge because I believe he gets into a fight with Ja pretty early on, right? And
right in that the very beginning, it's him and Tony Jaa fight.
Because Tony Jaa and Tiger Chen have been hired by Michael Jai White's team to go in and rescue Scott Adkins' character. And I don't think Tony Jaa straight up kills his wife, but his wife is killed in the crossfire of their storming this village.
They don't know she's completely killed on accident because Iko and his wife are in their house, and then she stands up and they're just shooting through the building. Iko
is a hired Indonesian for this camp to do security. Anyway, his wife dies in that attack. And Iko gets into a fight with Tony Jaa, so that's kind of his focus from then on out. And he does find them again in an underground fighting ring, of course. It's fantastic. And loses against Tiger Chen, and Tiger Chen, realizing what's going on, recognizing him, it's Tiger Chen and Tony Jaa that are kind of together. They're buddies.
They're dating.
They bring him to their house, and they give him food. And they're like, listen... Which I don't know why they cut the movie necessarily like this, but the revelation comes that while they did go in with this group, they then, after they rescued Scott Adkins, put them in his prison and kind of left them. So they hired them and then basically left them for dead in these prison cells as they blew up the rest of the thing. So they were taken advantage of. So basically they communicate to Iko. They're like, listen, we were also we had no idea. They told us it was a humanitarian mission or something like that, whatever. Basically they were tricked is the thing. So they kind of form a friendship, and yes, that is the triple threat, and I do want to come back to that, but it turns into this thing where Iko is trying to flush out Scott Adkins' group. So he uses them as bait. I really like this interplay that they did where Iko is kind of friends with them, but not quite yet. So he uses them to get arrested, which actually flushes them out. And then he comes back to try and get at Adkins and forms a fake alliance with Adkins up until the third act when his plan comes to fruition. I do like that. Like that kept me interested, and I'm like, oh, this is kind of cool. This isn't just a normal, I feel like any other movie it would have been he met up with Tony Jaa and Tiger Chen afterwards, and they were triple threat throughout the rest of the movie. You know, like
Voltron,
which probably could have been great, but
sure
is not what they went for here.
Yeah,
so I like that.
Totally agreed.
Unfortunately, I don't know if it really all comes together. And you said it's an action movie story. And again, I'm probably getting too specific or critical of something that isn't the focus necessarily, but I've got to.
It's your job.
So I think what happened, especially in listening to all those interviews, is that it seems all of the actors had an enormous amount of leeway and input as to their characters and sometimes even their motivations or plots. Like from what Jesse V. Johnson says in that interview, it sounds like a lot of Iko's subplot came from Iko himself after showing up on set and giving some notes and all this stuff, which, to be fair, they did this with everything, right? They're doing this with the action choreography, with the stunts. Like they are very much able to kind of roll with the punches, but in a way that they're able to form a hopefully more cohesive or adaptable movie that can kind of become organic in a way, which I love. That seems like a fantastic process that probably makes for some great stuff in a lot of different things.
Sure.
But this is the other thing. When you only have a week with the ensemble cast,
tough,
and
that's
you're
rough.
shooting this thing out of order anyways, to me, it's a miracle that it came together as good as it did. Like, just straight up period. If you're going to tell me that you have to film all this stuff out of order, people are going to be bringing in their own ideas, you're going to roll with it, and then after that, you still have to put it together into something. I'm amazed that it is as good as it is. But it appears to be building to something. Like, he always talks about this plan that he has, and the Tony Jaa and Tiger Chen don't quite know what it is, and I don't quite know what it is, which is fine because I'm interested, and I'm like, okay, so if this pays off, we've done something great here. In fact, there's Selena Jade. I mentioned her before the last 5 minutes of the show this time. Hopefully.
Yeah, she's pretty good.
She's good, but also apparently brought in a lot of her own lines, like came in with notes and was like, hey, what if I say this like this? And they're like, yeah, cool.
They're like, we don't care. You're not doing much in this movie anyways, unfortunately.
Unfortunately, yes, I believe that is the saddest point, is that she's not given a whole lot to do. In fact, there's a moment where all of her character work happens off camera, basically. Like, they're stuck or laying low in this restaurant, and it cuts, and like Selena Jade says one line that I can't even remember, that's like, it was my uncle's mission, but I made it my own, which is what we got at the beginning of the film anyways. You mentioned in your synopsis that ostensibly the movie's about this syndicate that wants to stop this donation from Selena Jade. But she gets that one line, and then she says, well, enough about me, though. What about you guys? And then it's all about Tiger Chen and Tony Jaa from then on out. So I'm like, well, that's kind of a bummer. It's like they knew it was supposed to be there, but they're like, no, it happens. We don't need to film it.
Everybody will figure it out.
But then she says basically my lines, in that she asks all the questions that I'm asking, and Tony Jaa, no, I think it's Tiger Chen responds.
Tiger's the one that responds to her, because he responds to her in China, because it was at this point where I asked, and I wrote down, how many languages are in this movie?
I love that part too. Yeah, it's so cool. Like, and for the moments where there needs to be communication, it's in English. So, because that's the language they can agree and understand each other on. But yeah, at times there's Iko talking in Indonesian, there's Tiger Chen and Selena Jade talking in Mandarin or whatever it is.
There's
or
Indonesian,
Chinese, I should just say.
Thai, Mandarin, Cantonese, English, and I think there was French in there too at some point.
I loved it. I think that's a lot of fun, yeah. But basically, Selena Jade is just saying all of my thoughts out loud to Tiger Chen. She's like, okay, so Iko is allied with them, and unfortunately all of Tiger Chen's responses are also all of my responses, like, well, kind of. And she's like, okay, well, what is this plan? He's like, well, it's complicated. I'm like, okay, like at this point I'm like, this better be like at best an out, like we don't want to reveal it yet, this better be going somewhere. Unfortunately, I don't think it necessarily does. His plan appeared to just be the whole time pretend to be allied with Adkins and his group, which never a real great reason why Adkins should have been trusting him, especially when his plan literally was the obvious thing where he just pretends to be allied with them to get the meetup to happen. But then there isn't even like a really, like, two of them come to the meeting, Tony Jaa stays behind, so it's like Adkins knows that somebody's missing, and Jaa just goes around and shoots all the other guys that they've had.
He literally just goes around. They make this big point about going, okay, Scott Adkins has said we're going to take all of the rest of the money that we have as a group. We're going to hire a bunch of shooters. We're going to place them in this spot. And then as like everything is beginning, Tony Jaa just rolls around and kills all of them.
That is it. That is really it. It didn't seem to be like any special twist or plan of Iko's. It was just exactly what you saw going on the entire time. There was no mystery to it.
It was great.
What he was doing was what he was doing, which, yes, it's fine, but it's obvious. And I don't know if this had to do with the fact that they all kind of created it on set, but it's obvious that maybe a little something was missing there for me when it came to the script. And honestly, the script altogether just needed like one more pass. Like, the dialogue is kind of bad. Like, some of those lines just don't work. Like, there's construction issues where at the very beginning, they go to kill Selena Jade because Scott Adkins' group is hired by this mafia, whatever, and they go to kill Selena Jade, and they fail because of her bodyguards or whatever. And Selena Jade, somebody tells Selena Jade, go run to the police station. She's like, okay. So she goes to the police station, and then independently we get a scene of Adkins' group after they've failed, them saying, all right, now we go to the police station. Not even like they really just needed to chase her to the police station, and they don't. Like, they need to go, they had it independently planned, so that's just where they end up later. It just, I feel like one more pass could have been like, hey, can't we put these together, and there were just a couple more things like that I feel like. But it's honestly fine.
Yes.
It is fine.
This is you doing that thing that you do.
Yes, it really is.
Yeah. For a movie called Triple Threat, starring a bunch of guys who are best known for being martial artists and punching each other in very cool ways.
Yes, listen to the first half of the show again and go watch the movie. The only other thing that maybe I had like another tiny issue, because I do like how they did separate Iko and Ja and Chen for the majority of the movie, because that was kind of plot interesting. But then by the end, I honestly don't think I really knew why the movie was called Triple Threat until the final shot where it's them three walking at the camera. I figured it out, but I wasn't positive. I'm like, okay, that could be why they called it Triple Threat. But then when that shot happened, I'm like, okay, definitely that's what they were going for. I could see some people getting through the entire thing until that final shot and being like, oh, like maybe the downside of that, but it's worth watching, man. It is worth watching.
I agree.
Okay. I don't know if you had anything else. I feel like I've talked too much
I think we're good.
That's why it's good when you interrupt me, because I feel like you need to. See, now I'm saying everything like freaking.
You're getting there.
Did you catch that? Who I just sounded like right then?
You're watching a lot of Scrubs.
Yep. Freaking John C. McGinley. You need to. I did it. I was literally having an argument with my wife the other day.
And you said,
I said something like, you can't be saying this because it sounds ridiculous. I'm like, this is bad. Like, because at the same moment I had to not laugh and also hope she never watches Scrubs.
When you start elongating your words into single syllable words into
Barbu. Oh, I can't wait for TVVB. Go watch Triple Threat. It's an easy 900 stars.
Out of 901.
You'll have a lot of fun with it.
It is fun.
It actually looks pretty good, too. Actually, I don't want to skip over that real quick. The cinematography is above average for this thing. Color grading, I guess I don't know between the two, but it's kind of a gorgeous version of blue versus orange for the majority of it. And it works out great. I don't know who they got. I'm sorry I don't have a name for somebody, but it looks real good. Like, I think it's an above average in a lot of different ways. Yeah.
I can't disagree on that either. It is actually, I think it's a good looking flick.
And believe it or not, I have bad trivia for it.
Okay.
What could go wrong?
I don't like liars, Ryan. I don't.
You don't think it's bad enough?
I might be a liar, but I don't like them.
Okay.
Don't you lie to me.
You tell me if it's bad enough.
Okay.
Michael Jai White's character. Oh, by the way, I don't do the bit often enough. I feel like so I should probably explain that IMDb has a trivia section where most of it's bad. Usually, it's not sponsored by IMDb. It's just perpetuated by them. So, Michael Jai White's character's name in the film is Devereaux. In Universal Soldier: The Return, he played Seth and fought Jean-Claude Van Damme, whose character's last name was Devereaux. Oh my!
As soon as you said Universal Soldier, I was like, he fought Devereaux.
Can you believe the trivia? Anyway,
that is bad.
Podcast at bookclubformovies.com. Come check us out at Facebook and Twitter. Next week, we're going to... Action Movie Month is over, right? It's done. Don't even try. I'm putting an end to it right now.
Okay.
So what are we going to do? I know we've got so many movies in the hopper. We've talked about Black Widow. I almost said Scarlet Witch, whatever. Loki.
Yeah, do we want to do Loki or Black Widow first? What do you want to do?
So definitely between those two?
That's where I would go, yeah.
I'm cool with either. Do you have a preference?
Well, we're doing action movies. Do you want to just keep with it and finish it out with Black
Dang
Widow?
it. You found a way, didn't you?
Hello. They call
Dirty
me
boy.
the loopholist.
The loopholer returns again. Okay.
I am from the TVA, the loopholer.
Black Widow. Come back next week for Black Widow. We'll do Black Widow. Matt, for the rest of the show, do you have any other movies you want to talk about?
I've got quite a few I could talk about, but I think
thought you might.
Probably only one that you might be interested in.
Oh, boy.
I watched Suicide Squad.
Oh, yes. Yes. Tell me literally no restrictions on spoilers whatsoever. Tell me all about Suicide Squad. Warning to everybody else also for that matter. The new... Okay, wait. Actually, I hope I didn't walk right into this. Speaking of the new Suicide Squad, right, Matt?
The air cut. No, yes. The
Okay,
Suicide Squad, not Suicide Squad.
Oh, you're right. They did add a "the" to it, didn't they?
Yes.
That's fun.
Which is going to be great, because the next one I'm hoping will be a Suicide Squad, followed by some Suicide Squad.
Two Suicide Squad, two Suicide, two Squad.
Two Squad, yes.
Yeah, that would be great. I would love to not have any idea what the movie is by the title. Yes.
Well, welcome to the Fast universe.
Exactly, yeah. I have no idea which one it was.
What's that? Suicide Squad, the James Gunn Suicide Squad. I'm not gonna go over all of the history behind it with the nonsense and whatnots and all this and the David Ayer stuff. We're gonna skip all over all that crap. Here's what I'll say about the Suicide Squad. I think I've been pretty vocal and clear that I'm number one. I like comic book movies, and I can acknowledge when they're problematic in terms of like even story or whatever. Like I totally get all of the complaints with Justice League. They just don't bother me on the same level for me. And I'm sure this is redundant for any viewers out there, but for me, I get a charge out of seeing characters that I love on screen. So I read comics on a regular basis. Writers write these characters differently all the time. And yeah, there's some stuff that's continuity based, but overall voices are going to be different. And just like, some people don't like Zack Snyder, there are people out there that don't like James Gunn. When it comes to James Gunn, I like the person, I think overall more than I like his catalog of films.
Oh, really?
I think he's very talented, and I do like his movies. I don't dislike most of them. I think he's a good director. I just don't think he's not. You're
not huge on Guardians.
I'm not. Yeah. I don't. It's fine movies, but Suicide Squad here. The Suicide Squad with we got Idris Elba, Margot Robbie. Are the big names to come back, and boy, this is his element. This is the movie where I've also said repeatedly, I think pretty clearly that I'm a huge Shazam fan. He's my favorite comic book character of all time, and the Shazam movie did everything for me.
I feel like we've mentioned the movie once or twice. Yeah. I don't know.
That was my favorite.
I feel like every so often we get to the rest of the show and you're like, I watched Shazam, and I'm like, no, you can't.
I can't
do that one again.
I did watch it. So let's forget about Suicide Squad. But Shazam's pretty much my favorite of the DC movies for a variety of reasons, and I'm pretty pleased to say this definitely overtook it.
Wow.
This is my favorite DC movie. This is James Gunn taking all the things that do work for a group like Guardians, and saying, okay, this is the anti-Guardians, and he got to do that on an extensive level. Because I'm going to take all of these characters that shouldn't work together, that may be not known to hardly anybody, and somehow turn them into characters that not only do you kind of fall in love with, but you're like, man, I don't want to see them die. And unlike the Marvel movies, you walk into this movie going, all of them potentially could die. And here's what I will give you the quick rundown here. Everybody dies pretty much.
No joke.
There are 4 survivors at the end of the movie. One of them, you guarantee definitely, of course, no, because it's Harley. Harley is going to survive.
Oh, sure.
Harley is treated better in this movie than she's been treated in anything else, in any of the other films.
Even Birds of Prey?
Even Birds of Prey, which I liked a lot. I loved it,
wow.
even. This is the right Harley. She gets her moment, and boy, does she use it. There is an incredible sequence with her. You've probably seen bits and pieces of it where she's in the red dress, and it kind of comes into play where she's taken off the field a little bit for the film and put into this kind of other role where the main group is not focused on her, and she kind of becomes, she actually does become Harley is also there. Let's get her on the way to what we're doing.
Okay.
And it works out great. And she has this moment where she was kind of like, thought she fell in love with this guy who we know is kind of, he's a dictator that's basically trying to take over the world, and she kills him. Like she kills him. She kills him after he's like made this whole he's tortured her at this point, but he told her he loved her and wanted to be with her and all this stuff. And she kills him, and she has this great line about how, I had a bad relationship, and what I've learned is when the relationship starts going like this, I just gotta kill him. But she does have also during this moment, she's wearing this great dress, and she's bound, and she's bound by like handcuffs, and she's hung like she's hanging with her arms up, and she's off the ground. And in real life, she ends up like Margot Robbie did this. She does the stunt to break the guy's neck. Then she very smoothly with her feet picks up a key off his pants, does this like crazy bend to unlock the thing, and she actually did it. Okay. Which was nuts. It's this amazing. You watch that and you go, that's a Cirque du Soleil thing, and that's cool. In the first 15 minutes, we get to see you finally get to see TDK at his best. So that's the what's his name from Serenity and Castle.
Oh, really?
I can't remember.
Gosh, there. I would have never forgotten his Nathan Fillion.
Nathan Fillion. Yeah, so Nathan Fillion plays TDK. We get to see him for a minute before he is okay.
Wonderful.
You're gonna need to edit this. So I will try to go through. This is how the movie goes. Okay. Do you remember how the first, in terms of, we're going to introduce a mass amount of characters. They do it in the most brilliant way by essentially having the Task Force X like command center taking bets on who's gonna die, and they're like flipping through it. They're like, no way, he's not surviving this run. No way. Fine. Not at all. Really great. The opening of the movie is the attack on Corto Maltese, which is a mythical place in the DC universe. It's mentioned all over the place. It was mentioned actually in the Keaton Batman movie.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's where
the Tim Burton?
Yeah, Vicky Vale takes pictures at Corto Maltese, and that's what Joker loves and all that stuff. So Corto Maltese is kind of this military dictatorship and all this stuff, and the intro to the movie is them landing on a beach. It's dead silent. You've got basically the entire crew there. So you've got Flag, Harley Quinn, Javelin. You've got Savant, TDK, Blackguard, and Mongal.
He's doing this all from memory, folks. Does Jai Courtney die?
And Boomerang and Captain Boomerang. These are all right at the beginning here. So they land.
Does Jai Courtney die?
They land. I'll tell you in a moment. They land on this beach, and again, this is the first 5 minutes of the movie. Pete Davidson steps out onto the beach, and he's like, "Guys, I got this. I'm the one who called you all. I'm the one who set this up." And you're like, okay. And you've got Flag and Harley going, "Oh no, we've been double crossed." And his face is blown off. Pete Davidson's face it turns into a half moon of gore. It just is gone.
Still not Jai Courtney, but
they suddenly are all being attacked. We get to see Nathan Fillion's TDK where he stands up, his arms pop off. They start going forward while he stands back, and he's like moving his armless body. And then his arms just start slapping the crap out of a whole bunch of the army guys.
Army, I get it.
Yeah. And then Mongal who's in she has like 2 lines. They bring in like there's a helicopter, and she goes, "I'll take care of the bird," and Flag goes, "Don't." She jumps up, the thing starts immediately spinning around, crashes on top of her, blowing up, and in doing so kills Captain Boomerang right away.
Oh, cool. He doesn't even get his own like drawn out death joke. It's kind of mixed in with some.
No, he's in.
Perfect.
He gets like 3 lines in the movie. We find out that Harley did like Boomer, but yeah, he's blown up right away.
That would be cool if they paid off his. Remember, there's a video out there you can watch on YouTube where they talk about the original Suicide Squad. I'm sorry, I'm doing this right now, but where what was it? The bunny in his. Is it the bunny or the money in his jacket pocket never gets paid off the right way?
The bunny.
Like it's everything but the payoff. Yeah, that would have been funny if they paid it off in that movie, like right before he died or something.
You know what's funny is it might have been in there and I didn't look. I'll have to look for it.
Right.
But essentially everybody gets taken out on that beach except for Harley and Flag. Flag gets taken away. Harley gets kidnapped, and that's kind of where she's gone for almost the rest of the movie at this point. Then we get a time jump back. Oh, Savant, by the way, is the one we get. He Savant, played by Michael Rooker, is the
oh, cool.
He's the Slipknot of this movie. He's the one where he's watching them all get shot and killed, and so he tries to swim away, and and Waller blows his head up. This movie is gory as hell.
Oh, is it?
There is like this is straight up gory. So you get to the main squad, which ends up being Bloodsport, Polka Dot Man, King Shark, and Peacemaker, essentially.
John Cena, right?
Yeah,
that one I got.
Idris Elba is having a ton of fun. You can see it throughout the movie. He's just having a great time.
Now he's not a Deadshot. I forget. Will Smith played Deadshot.
Yes.
They're not. Are they playing the same character?
No,
they're not. Right?
Deadshot is Floyd Lawson. He's really good shot. Bloodsport. Like
right.
just okay, like in the movie, they say it's exactly how he was introduced in the comics. He put Superman in the hospital by shooting him with a kryptonite bullet.
Yeah, but obviously though, Elba and that character occupying the same space as Will Smith and Deadshot in the first one.
Basically,
but
yeah.
I just at a glance love Elba, and it just makes so much more sense here to me, even just from what I've seen, than the Will Smith one did, which
he's better.
Also not the problem of that movie.
No. I forgot to mention the Ratcatcher. Ratcatcher 2 is great. She's actually kind of the heart of the movie, really. And she, when you watch it, you'll fall in love with her and her little rat Sebastian. Weasel, who did get a good deal of he gets a good deal of attention in the trailers. Basically, he goes into the water and he drowns in the water, and while he's drowning, Flag's like, "Did anybody check to see if the Weasel could swim?" And he just dies. And that's the end of Weasel. So Ratcatcher is actually great. So she is the heart of the film. She spends we get the her backstory here and there with Taika Waititi as her father, as the first Ratcatcher, who dies as of a heroin overdose. He's a junkie, but he's great. Great father, great dad.
Not for that, just otherwise.
Cena pretty much steals every scene he's in.
Oh, really?
You like that character is written. You hate him. You just hate him so much. But there are so many good bits, where one of them being the back and forth between Bloodsport and him, where Bloodsport says something about being too showy, and Cena responds with, "Yeah, it might be too showy, but it doesn't matter if it's dope as hell." And Bloodsport goes, "He's right." Polka Dot Man, they loved him to death. He was great. He's not used as much as you'd want. They changed him around, so he in the comics, the polka dots are like technology. They're things that he carries around. In this, they've turned it into a every night he has some alien virus because his mother
wow, okay.
His mother tried to turn her children into superheroes, and infected him on purpose with an alien virus that causes him to swell up with these like polka dot things that glow on his face, and he has to expel them every night. Otherwise something bad will happen.
Wow.
And it's pretty good, because when we do see him use it, everybody's like surprised at how effective the polka dots are. And and they're like, yeah, but you got to kill people. And he's like, oh, I don't have a problem killing people. I just picture it's my mom. It makes it easy. At one point throughout the movie, then when we see from his perspective, everybody is his mother. And it's funny as hell. He does make it through to the end, right up until he doesn't.
Oh, I was gonna say Polka Dot Man makes. Okay, I also watched a movie with Polka Dot Man in it.
David
so
Dastmalchian.
Exciting.
Yeah, you watched Ant-Man? Or
oh, is he in Ant-Man?
He is.
He's in a lot. No, it could have been Dark Knight. It could have been. Yeah.
But overall, yeah, it does. It kind of goes the way you expect. Peacemaker ends up kind of doing exactly what he does in the comics, which is he is focused on the mission, only the mission. If you're in the way of the mission, doing anything that could impact the mission, you're in the way. So he and Bloodsport get into it towards the end. We get a huge fight with Starro at the end that is both tragic,
right,
where Starro does send out the starfish and takes over a whole mass of people, and they start talking to the squad. And at one point he says, I was just content to live out, to be floating in the stars, staring at the sun. You brought me here. And we did get background where scientists pulled him, and they figured out that, when they found him, he was a baby starfish. And then the more he took over people's minds, the bigger it grew. So now it's become a giant thing, because they've...
So cool, though. I love that they chose Starro.
Great use of it. They set up the sequel or continuations in a brilliant way, allowing Harley. It gives an out to Bloodsport, Harley, King Shark.
Oh, King Shark survives?
King Shark does survive.
Awesome. Good idea.
And I think one other person survives. And Ratcatcher. Joel Kinnaman's flag does actually get murdered. He dies. Peacemaker kills him.
Huh.
And we did get there's a couple of fun little cameos in the background. John Ostrander, the creator of the Suicide Squad, he's actually
cool.
He's in the commercials. He's the doctor with the white hair that's implanting the chip into Savant's head. Sean Gunn, who did the mocap for Weasel. He also did the mocap for Rocket Raccoon, and he was one of the Ravagers. He shows up.
Was he brother or?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah. Okay.
He shows up in the background as Calendar Man. they gave him
cool.
They give him a fun little. He's totally got the tattoos on his head and everything of the months and all that. Brilliant.
Calendar Man, maybe the dumbest sounding bad guy that always looks super cool whenever he shows up anywhere.
Definitely better than Condiment Man. But overall, man, like Polka Dot Man was totally the
one of your favorites?
I loved him. Yeah, I loved him. He was my favorite part of the movie. Him and Shark and King Shark has a couple of fun lines. More than just and, but that is
bird.
It's still pretty funny. Nom noms. They actually give him they totally have a riff on 100%, and there is nobody that could tell me differently. They totally riff on Captain America going Hulk smash, where Bloodsport goes Nanawe, which is Shark's real name. He goes Nanawe. Nom noms or something like that, and points to the guys so he can go attack them. It's pretty good. It's the movie overall is real good. Peacemaker dies at the end, and then you get the post-credit sequence that shows somehow he survived. But yeah, man,
awesome.
The movie was super great. Gory as hell. I loved it. I recommend it.
It does seem tailor-made for you, honestly.
To me, this is the quintessential comic book movie. It hit all of those, like not just, and it's the perfect encapsulation of those characters, what the stakes should be, and more than anything, knowing what I know about James Gunn in terms of, okay, I know he can do this movie. I've seen his horror movies. I know he can do Guardians of the Galaxy. I know he can do all the heart in the world that goes there. If DC needs somebody to take their reins, give it to him. Let him do it because he clearly gets it.
Oh, make him the Kevin Feige?
Or I mean, give him whatever you were doing with Snyder. Let him take the reins over. Let him build the universe that is your DCU. Let him be the one that brings all of it together. Give him the Justice League. Give him...
That's a good point, man. Actually, yeah, I could kind of see that.
I don't know if he's interested in it, but if he's the guy. He's who they should be going to. I mean, he's done with Guardians. He said after the third one, he's like, he's done with it. He said he's not done with, if Disney wants him for Marvel stuff, he said he'll keep doing it, but Guardians he's done with. And he's apparently been having lots of conversations with DC about more villain stuff, more Suicide Squad. I think, and this is total
conjecture on your part.
Total conjecture, pie in the sky. But based on the way the movie ends, I could easily see him wanting to go and do a Secret Six movie and use the Gail Simone story because Gail Simone also wrote an amazing King Shark. They could definitely slot in Bloodsport and work in some of that stuff. So that'd be cool. It's great. I loved it.
That would be cool. All right. That's pretty awesome. I'm glad. And honestly, I don't know if I will edit any of that out. So there.
Fart.
Maybe I'll edit the part out where you asked me to edit some of this out.
Edit.
Then who's laughing? So the Polka Dot Man movie I watched was Prisoners. You ever seen that?
Yeah, man. He's super great in that. That's the other Denny Vinot, right?
Yeah, if that's how you say his name.
Yeah.
I knew this might even be the first. Gosh, is it the first of his movies I've seen?
It's
Sicario. I guess he did also. So, and Arrival, obviously. So the third of his movies I've seen. Well, okay, it's the earliest of his movies I've seen.
Yeah.
So I kind of knew what I was getting into. Also knew it was Deakins. So I'm like. And overloaded, I think, probably from the beginning, trying to figure out. Luckily, I don't think it's maybe his. It's pretty deep, especially visually, but it's not like
it's way more by the numbers than your beautiful like even Sicario.
Plot-wise, anyways.
Yeah.
So, still, just masterfully, as far as a thriller, I guess, if you even put it in that category, as far as that goes, just. It's basically Hugh Jackman being, I want to say the man that everybody hates, but maybe the man that only people who aren't that man hate, kind of. He's a total prepper, which, again, I'm saying all of this in a bad way. Mm-hmm. I'm sure there are good preppers out there. I too have a 72-hour kit.
Meal preppers?
Yes, whatever, yeah. But he's that type of person that, I mean, the movie starts with basically him telling his son, you do what you got to do whenever whatever it is happens, whether it's, I don't think he says aliens, but you get the point that that's in the list somewhere, even if he doesn't say it, you just do what you got to do, blah, blah, blah. So then what happens is his kids get abducted. He thinks he knows who did it. So he himself, where I feel like you love to see this type of guy get their comeuppance because they're the type of people that crumble under the least amount of pressure for all of their big talk,
Yeah.
Like my favorite meme of COVID was all of the, the preppers that had supposedly prepared for such a situation for so long, very angry that they couldn't get their hair cut or had to wear a mask in different places. They quickly fall apart. Well, unfortunately, Hugh Jackman isn't necessarily that type of person. It's kind of like, what if this person can make good or is actually as evil as everybody else knows they are or knows that their talk is. So it's real fun to see him go through that horror in a way. But just I think that's the least of how this is, that's brilliant character work and writing, but it's just says even nothing for how it's filmed and how it's put together, which is just this, you can't stop watching it. Like you just cannot stop. The moments that it presents and in the order that it presents them are insane and great.
And this is not even mentioning the cast, which is outstanding. You've got
Melissa Leo,
you've got Jackman Gyllenhaal, Melissa Leo, what's his name from Love and Mercy, and I can never remember. Paul Dano.
Yeah, Paul Dano.
Yeah, I mean,
they all do fantastic. It's amazing, like all freaking cylinders. The other movie, or I guess two movies I can do real quick, double feature. I did a couple Joel Edgerton properties. I don't know if anything comes to mind when I say.
Loving, and then also a ton of bad movies.
All right. Well, I guess I need to look up my Joel Edgerton because the two I saw were pretty fantastic. I'll mention the least of the two first. Have you ever seen The Gift?
With is Keanu Reeves in that?
Jason Bateman. I don't know if you were headed down that road. Jason Bateman
I was
and
not.
Rebecca Hall.
It's a different The Gift. Got it.
Oh, yeah.
There's The Gift that's directed by Sam Raimi, I think.
Oh.
It had Kate Blanchett and Keanu Reeves, and I didn't remember.
Well, now I'm extremely interested in that one also. Tune in next week. No, this is about Joel Edgerton plays
not Kate Blanchett,
and one of Bateman's acquaintances from high school. Bateman was a bully, and I feel bad because I don't know if I should be impressed or saddened by how good Bateman is at these characters. And this is really one of the worst Bateman characters I think I've ever seen. I might be bringing a lot to that, but he is just really bad. in like there's a scene between the two that is cringe, but not in the way that I feel like most people use that word. It's just literally hard to watch. So I can't really, it's twisty in a way, so I don't want to say too much more about it, but totally worth watching. Yeah, you
cool.
Probably want to check it out.
Yeah, no, I like Bateman. He's always good.
Edgerton, I think, is the standout. Bateman's just doing what he does, and he does it fantastically, but Edgerton is kind of the...
Such a weird thing to hear.
It is, I guess. I didn't know this, because the other movie I saw him in was Animal Kingdom. I think I texted you about this when I watched it.
It sounds familiar, though. Yeah.
If you were to tell me that Joel Edgerton, which he's not the hugest part of this movie, but if you were to tell me he is in some bad movies, I wouldn't have believed you after watching this thing. It is his best movie I've ever seen him in, which apparently I haven't seen him in a lot. It is Ben Mendelsohn's best movie. In fact, might even be the thing. My gosh, dude, this movie, it's a crime. It's about a crime family, I think, in Australia. And
what is it called?
Animal Kingdom.
Animal Kingdom.
Yeah, watch it. Watch that one.
Oh, and it's got Guy Pearce in it too.
Guy Pearce plays the cop. He's trying to kind of befriend this kid that's kind of caught up in all of it after his mom ODs.
I guess I just don't really have much. I don't have a huge opinion on Joel Edgerton overall. I mean,
I didn't know he was a thing really. Like I've just recently seen two movies of his back to back out of nowhere. So
I always remember him in, it seems like he was freaking Owen Lars in Star Wars, in Return of the Jedi or Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
He was.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. That kind of. I think I recognize him.
He was also in the remake of The Thing.
There's your Joel Edgerton minute for the week, I guess.
Great.
I'll come back next week when we do a Black Widow minute. Also, a Scarlett Johansson minute, I'm sure. So come back next week for that. You've probably already seen, especially if you're listening to this podcast, Scarlet Witch. So send us
maybe
a
watch
message.
Black Widow instead of Scarlet Witch, but that's up to you.
Which either one, I don't know, it doesn't matter.
Just watch a movie and tell us about it.
At podcast@bookclubformovies.com, Facebook and Twitter, and it'll be fun.
Okay, bye.